Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Welcome to the Shining Light on Holistic Healing Roundtable discussion, virtually presented to you by me, Rissa Vibes, on this channel. Super excited to connect with all of you and to present all of these amazing leaders in light that are here to share their gifts, their knowledge, their expertise, and to have a conversation, a conscious conversation on holistic healing. I first want to start by just setting an intention for this event. I have a few intentions that I really wanted to share with everybody, not just for this roundtable, but also for the event itself. The first intention is really to open the door to holistic healing for the world, and for those of you who really don't understand what holistic healing is and want to discover more. And if you're wondering, holistic healing is the embodiment of mind, body, spirit, and emotional well-being, and the modalities that allow us to access it that are not always medically based, but are spiritually and traditionally based and energetically based as well. I also have the intention to provide new awareness and opportunity for all of you watching here to tap into your own form of holistic healing, to learn how to heal yourselves and to heal others through the modalities and knowledge that these leaders in light are presenting to you in this event. And then I also want to shine light on the diversity of holistic healing and the many different ways that you can really tap into it. And then finally, we're going to raise consciousness of humanity with this event and this roundtable talk, and really empower healers all over the world to have these conscious conversations and to bring more holistic healing into the world today, because we definitely need it with everything going on in our world. So those are the intentions for this event and this roundtable discussion. I'm so excited to bring this forth for all of you. So get nice and comfortable and relaxed, and we're going to go ahead and start. I want to first start by introducing all of our leaders in light. This is a great opportunity for you all to learn about these amazing, amazing healers and all the ways in which they've healed themselves and heal others in the world. The first person I want to introduce is Monique. Monique is the owner of In This Moment Massage and Sound Therapy. She is a licensed massage therapist of over 11 years. She is also a sound practitioner, certified since 2019, and she offers group meditations and gatherings that ignite the innate healing wisdom within. Thank you, Monique, for joining. Good to see you. I also want to introduce Ksenia next. Ksenia is an energy worker, a breathwork facilitator, and a shamanic practitioner. She is also the creatrix of Abundant Space, and she uses her ancient techniques and modern methods to connect people with themselves and the divine. Thank you so much for being here, Ksenia. I'm so happy to have you. And then next, I want to introduce Brian, who is a serial entrepreneur and owner of the supplement company Gone Green. He is also a podcast host under the handle of Real Spiritual Gangsters on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Thank you so much for being here, Brian. So good to have you. And then I would like to introduce Molly. Molly is a holistic health practitioner and coach who uses several healing modalities, such as crystal Reiki healing, intuitive assessment, aromatherapy, and her 9 years background in clinical nursing to help people recognize their power of mind-body connection. Thank you so much, Molly, for being here. I'm so happy to have you. And then finally, I would like to introduce Chad Collins. He is a clinical mental health therapist in training. He is also a former collegiate athlete and poet. He's a son, a brother, a lover, and a smooth shaman undergoing initiation. Thank you, Chad, for being here as well. And finally, I would like to introduce myself. Again, my name is Rissa Vibes, aka Readings by Rissa. I am a professional intuitive and intuitive coach. I help spiritually curious people access their intuitive gifts and walk their enlightenment path. And I also am a channel and a Reiki healer as well. And of course, I hold sacred space for communities and gatherings just like this one. So I'm super excited to have all of you here. And to start this amazing roundtable, we're going to get right into it. This is going to be a conscious conversation on holistic healing. And we've decided to break this up into two parts. This is part one, and this part is going to be focused primarily on inner work. Part two will be focused on outer work. And I love this, ability to discern the two, because it's so important to do both internal and external work on healing. We really want to use our own inner being to heal ourselves. And as we do, we become a vortex of healing outside of ourselves and create that ripple effect. So I'm super excited to bring this in with two parts. First being inner work. So before we get started, I want everybody to just take a nice deep breath. Part of our holistic healing right now, just getting centered, relaxed, ready to receive, ready to serve, and ready to be in this vibration and conscious conversation. Let's go ahead and start with our first question. Okay, I love this question. This question is from Molly, and this question is, what does it look like for you to be healthy and to feel healthy? So let's go ahead and talk about what it really is to feel and be healthy. Whoever wants to start.
I'll start because it was my question. I asked that question because I think there's so many of us that, we use this language around health, like, oh, that's not healthy food. Oh, that is healthy food. And like, we can really polarize the two. Like, what does it mean to be healthy? And I think for me, when I was working as a nurse, I was doing a lot of healthy things. Like, I was eating healthy, I was, exercising, and kind of all the things that we would envision as a culture as healthy. I think I even went to like therapy every so often, like it was like I was kind of doing the things. And there was a huge part of me that was so like malnourished. I had no idea what having space held for me. I didn't know what that meant. And so for me to feel healthy, it looks a lot different than it used to. It looks more like really getting to ask myself questions of like, am I creating the life that I want? Like, am I choosing to live in a way that feels good to me and my family? Like, what am I creating? Because we all have the ability to create something. And I don't think that I knew that before. That was a huge piece of my holistic journey, is learning that I am connected to my body so that I can create and I can choose the life that I want to live.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Molly. I completely agree with you. I think that internal awareness of, what kind of life you're creating and your creative power, so many people forget that that is a part of our health and our well-being. And by accessing our creative power, we really are able to, heal so much of our lives, not just ourselves. Who else wants to share about this? How does it feel to be healthy, and what does it really mean to be healthy?
I really love this question. And for me, I think a huge part of health is what I'm absorbing, what I'm watching on TV, who I'm following on social media. When I am scrolling, what am I exposing myself to? The books that I'm reading, in addition to what I'm putting inside my body, the food, what I'm exposing myself to. To me, being really mindful of that it feels healthy. Health feels healthy to me. You're on mute, love.
Thank you. The input and the output is what I really heard with that, what you're putting in and what you're giving out, and how healthy is that? I love that, Monique. Thank you for sharing.
I just love everything everyone said so far. I think there's so many different aspects to health. One thing for me as a facilitator, as a practitioner, I know for me how clear my channel is. I'm sure Rissa, you can relate with this too. That's a big aspect of my health, of my spiritual health, of my well-being, of my work. So I know before when I was just, drinking or doing drugs or putting whatever into my body, that channel was so clogged up. So there was no connection, right? And sometimes there was a connection, but maybe not to the right, the right beings, the right entities. So for me, that's a great way for me to tune in, is how clear is my connection to spirit? How clear is my connection to my guides? And that's usually a pretty good indication of where I'm at health-wise as well. For me, when my body feels good, when my mind feels clear, when I feel nourished, when I feel sustained, when I feel in right relationship with those around me, it's so easy for me to bring my work forth. And then as soon as maybe I start slacking on one or two things, all of a sudden I notice what's going on, and there's a little bit of a disconnect that can occur. So that's just a great indication for me, as well as what everyone else has said, what type of life am I creating? What am I building? The things that I'm feeding my mind, body, and soul. And but yeah, for me, just one real clear indication I found is that clearness of that channel. I think that speaks wonders to where we're at.
Love that. Thank you for sharing that, Ksenia. I think all those ways in which to keep your channel clear that you shared is so helpful for people as well. So thank you. Who else wants to chat about what it feels like to be healthy?
I'll chime in. I guess it changes for me all the time. And I think I'm in a bit more of a season right now where it's almost like an electrical charge. It's like getting the right amount of sleep, doing the right amount of exercise. And I've been doing a lot of, I do a lot of cold plunging whenever I can, which is really hard to do now that I'm living in Phoenix because there's no cold water anywhere. It's impossible to find it anywhere. But when I have opportunity, cold plunging is a big thing that I do that kind of just gets like everything off of me and just makes me feel like the most clear that, that I can possibly feel. I've been doing a lot of, because of that, because I can't do that like I used to be able to do that, because I used to live in Sedona and we had cold water almost year round if you went up in the canyon. So now that I can't do that, I'm really getting into like grounding mats and like, sleeping with a grounding mat so that I stay grounded all the time electromagnetically, because there's more, and I'm worried about things like 5G and stuff like that. And I'm always on my phone. I'm always on computers. I'm always doing stuff like that because I'm a content creator and I run online businesses. So I have to constantly like take a break, jump in the swimming pool, go work out, stay grounded, monitor my sleep, take in more magnesium. Like I have to do everything to keep balancing the fact that the matrix is like zapping your energy. It's like filling you with things that are, inflammatory and are ungrounding. And, so you have to kind of constantly be doing something to counter that over and over and over. So for me, it's kind of the new season I'm in is it's almost like a purely electrical thing where I constantly am just trying to like stay really in my body and really grounded and just like keep taking the right supplements and, just do everything there is to do. And I do consume a lot of coffee and chocolate because that that also gives me the right electrical charge to deal with all the computer screens and stuff like that. But
I love that. Real quick, Brian, can you share what a grounding mat is? Because I don't think many people know, and I would love for the audience to kind of just know a brief description of that.
Well, let me show you 1 minute.
Okay, cool. I love Brian's show and tells. He's been educating me on all the cool things to get for holistic healing for years. So. I also want to just mention too with this is that, the way in which all of you have shared so far, and I know Chad will still share as well, but it's so balanced. Like everybody's talking really about balance, this ability to balance everything and to understand what balance is for you and how to achieve it. Go ahead, Brian, let's see it.
Okay. So this is an old model. This is from a company
cool.
called earthing.com, or it's on earthing.com, I think. The company's called Earthing. But it's just like this rubber mat, and it has this little, it's almost like it's like a little thing that snaps on.
Oh, cool.
And then this cord, you plug this into the grounding of like your electrical outlet.
Ah.
But it comes with a tester too, because sometimes if an electrician messed up, they might have crossed the wires or something. So you want to test it to make sure that it's like, that the wire's not dirty and that it's actually grounded.
Yeah.
But you just plug it into the grounding outlet, you know, the third prong in like an electrical socket. And then it just keeps you electromagnetically grounded, which is a big deal. Because when you're electromagnetically grounded, your whole body is just like instantaneously filled with electrons, with basically like antioxidants. So you're just like pushing all the negative energy that you're getting from 5G and just all the electrical, you know, Wi-Fi, everything that's just in your house. You're basically filling your body with everything to resist it, and it's actually pushing an electromagnetic field out around you and protecting you. And once you get connected, it's the opposite. You're just getting hit with everything.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. That's huge. I think like so many people don't know about that. Go ahead, Ksenia. Did you want to say?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, there is an amazing cold plunge studio called Optimize here in Phoenix. So they have, I think like 4 cold plunges, as well as a sauna and like compression therapy, red light therapy. It's so cool. It's called Optimize. So they're great people over there.
Where's it at?
I just moved out to Phoenix a few years ago, so my areas aren't very solid yet. But I would say like maybe Central Phoenix. I'm sure if you Google Optimize Phoenix, it'll come right up. But yeah, they have a great community over there too.
So there is cold water in Phoenix.
Yay! It's just man-made cold water. It's created for you. I love that. Go ahead, Chad. Share with us what it feels like to be healthy for you.
Well, everybody on the panel so far has offered a lot of great suggestions, great things that I think, as Rissa started to highlight briefly there about balance and how I think Molly originally shared it about how health changes for us as we change. We are not static individuals. We are dynamic. We're constantly changing. We're evolving. Each season, you have new things that go on for you. And I think it is important about that. Like there's so many different ways to feel healthy, to feel good. Whether that is, you know, obviously your diet, water intake, sleep, your spiritual health, and whatever works for you spiritually, whether that is crystal work or, you know, prayer, meditation, physical health with, you know, going back to exercise and things like that, you know, yoga. But I think the biggest aspect is just being able to constantly adapt yourself to whatever's going on. Maybe you're working out 5 days a week one time and it feels great for a month or two. And having that awareness of your body to know, okay, on that 3rd month, I don't feel well, changing it, constantly being able to find that balance, that whatever that balance is for you. Yeah, I think it's just the biggest thing about feeling healthy is knowing that what feels healthy today may not feel healthy tomorrow, but tomorrow offers opportunity for you to feel healthy again in another way, shape, or form, however that is for you. It's a constantly evolving, adapting modality for each individual person. Again, we're dynamic, we're all cool, and we're all humans, and we get to do a lot of different cool things. And part of what comes with that is adapting what makes us feel healthy. So, yeah.
I love that. I can definitely get behind that as a Gemini. Like the ability to adapt and change with your environment and your circumstance is huge. And that's something that I've really found as well in my journey. It's just this ability to really intuitively kind of feel into what's needed at the time. You know, adding my answer is really based in intuition. You know, it's based in this ability to feel energetically the subtle energies within my body. You know, when I start to feel a tension showing up in my physical body, what is that energetically linked to? Is it linked to an emotion, a thought, or something that I did, you know, physically active throughout the day? And how soon can I, you know, release that energy and that tension intuitively through any kind of breath work, or just through, you know, calling on spirit to clear it with Reiki and other ways. But also intuitive eating for me has been really powerful in keeping me feeling healthy and being healthy. I went through a huge kind of transformation when I started accessing my gifts and raising my vibration, where food was just very foreign to me. Everything that I was used to eating just did not resonate anymore. Brian was a big part of my journey on that, because he had all the knowledge of what to do and kind of sent me through all these different ways to try to figure out what would be best for my body, nutrition wise, which I really appreciated. And I think what it came down to after I cleansed and really cleared all the toxic, energy within my body physically, was that it was about intuitively eating. From the point of cleansing and clearing what was not working, from that point on, it's about feeling into your body, feeling even into your emotional body, your spiritual body, your mental body, and intuitively really getting clear on what you need, what you're craving, what is the void that is there that is causing tension or pain or a feeling of emptiness, and how can you fulfill that? How can you satisfy it in a healthy way? So beautiful. I love all these shares, and I think this all really helps the viewers to feel into what feels healthy for them, and how to be healthy in their own way wherever they're at in their journey. Let's go ahead and see what the next question is. We've got a couple more to go, so I want to keep it moving. Oh, I love this one. This question was asked by Chad. It says, if you could tell your childhood self one thing about holistic healing, maybe a piece of advice or a piece of knowledge or wisdom, what would that be? This is a thought provoker.
Well, I would love to share. For me, it would just be 100% to try breath work. I feel like I didn't find breath work until I was well into my 20s, but it's something that had I found it when I was really like struggling, 15 or 16, just really getting into trouble and really searching for something where I didn't even know what I was looking for. I think that I could have bypassed a lot of the experimentation and just a lot of the things, just clear. It's such an easy way to clear. And I feel like for me, people are always saying like, oh, you got to let it go, just let it go, let that shit go. And it's like, until I found breath work, I really didn't find a super effective way to let shit go. So I would definitely have said, hey, check out breath work, check out this modality. You're going to resonate with it, because I do know that when I was finally entered, and I know at the same time, I know everything comes into our life in divine timing. So, obviously I wasn't ready for it then, or I would have perhaps found it sooner. But I just know as soon as it was my first time doing it, and it just had such a profound effect on me, and I was able to shed what felt like lifetimes, generations of just trauma and pain, and just so many things from my physical, both for my physical and my spiritual body on all levels. So that would be the one thing that I would recommend to all of you, because right, in some ways we're all our younger selves too. It's like, check it out. Breathwork so poppin'. It's amazing.
Yes, I love that. And I love what you said too, Ksenia, about like how it would have maybe bypassed some of the experimentation, because I know from your breathwork sessions that I've had just in group, I've had like very, psychedelic experiences in breathwork, and very like, head change experiences that were really fun, that, didn't require any drug use or alcohol, but just was natural breath. And I think that's super powerful for anybody who's kind of looking for that, but in a healthy way. So cool.
Okay, I'll go on this one. I love this question, first of all, because, and I love what you touched on, Ksenia, of we all are our inner child. Our inner child is us, right? Like still in there. And we get to commune with her or him, and they're part of who we are. And so I think if I was to tell my inner child anything now that she didn't know before, it would really be around like spirituality, and that there's so many ways to experience God or the universe or the divine, however you see that, that power. I grew up in an evangelical background, and it was very much male dominated, very much like God is father, and there was like really no other way. There was really no other spiritual path. or no other way to experience God. And I think that for me, a huge piece of my healing journey was mothering myself and really seeing God and universe, like Mother Earth, like seeing God as Mother God. So the feminine divine, and knowing that there was a um, a way for me to really access and feel like the divine was in me would have been super helpful as a child, because I really disconnected from my body at an early age, because I was really fed those messages of like, your body is bad, right? Your body's bad, your body's shameful, like, and so those pieces of my, they've been big pieces of my holistic healing, and getting that message and knowing that there was like a larger power that was God, Mother God, would have been super, super helpful in me really embracing who I am. Yeah, so.
I love that. Do you have any kind of ways that you connected to that energy, Molly? Like anything that you did differently to connect to the feminine aspect of that, or the creator aspect of Mother God?
Yeah, totally. So this is kind of a little bit on my health journey as well. When I was 17, I was diagnosed with endometriosis, and they thought I had Crohn's disease. I had to get a colonoscopy and an endoscopy and go to Phoenix Children's Hospital, and it was a really big thing. And you know, like I grew up on bologna sandwiches, like bologna craft cheese, Wonder Bread sandwiches. Like my parents, they did the best with what they had, but they just didn't know any better. And so when I look back at it, I know so much of it was nutrition related, but there was also a huge spiritual aspect for me, because when I was 17 and they diagnosed me, they put me on continuous birth control. So I didn't connect with my cycle, because I literally didn't have a cycle for like 5 years. And it's like there was a piece of me that was just lost as a female. And then obviously like not having a lot of models in my life of what like really embracing like the feminine divine, or like your femininity period, or like feminine energy, any of that, right? And so a big piece of my healing was food. Like I've heard this as a commonality, but it was also just getting into circles with other women, like getting into spaces with other women, and not just women, but like other people in general who had a consciousness around like there is other ways to heal. There are other ways to experience God. Like there's not just a black and a white here. And so for me personally, it was just being with a lot of women who were healing too. Like there was nobody that was like, you know, she had it all together and she taught me everything. I have worked with many coaches and I have worked with many healers. But just being in knowing that it was okay to be human. And that I was experiencing the human experience. So there was something so healing in that piece for me. And that was a big part of my journey.
Love that. Yeah, so powerful. Thank you. Who else would like to share on some advice that they have for their childhood self on holistic healing?
I love that. I also love this question, and I really loved Molly's response, and I feel like mine kind of goes hand in hand with that, because I would tell my childhood self that no matter externally what is going on, you're safe in your body. Like that's what I would tell my younger self. You are safe in your body, no matter what externally is going on. And you know, because through trauma, such a disconnect was created. And I feel like, you know, if I just could have found ways to find solace inside my body, like through meditation or like, you know, breath work or things like that at that young age, a lot of things could have been different or better. So that, and also to educate educate myself on nutrition, proper like nutrition and what your body really needs.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that. Anybody else want to share? I'll share real quick. Oh, sorry, Chad. I beat you to it. I was just feeling, for this question for me, I would tell my childhood self to not fear healing. I think that a lot of my childhood self was trying to be extra strong and extra, just unbothered and tried to just be very calloused to anything outside of myself that was traumatic and anything inside of myself that I was internally, harboring. And I would just try to kind of fight my way through it or strong my way through it and kind of brunt my way through it without really letting myself heal. I was very afraid of healing. I thought that it was weakness. I thought it was, something that wasn't important or that would take too much time or would hold me back. Like I didn't have time to heal. I have to be this independent person. I had a lot of abandonment issues when I was a child. I had a lot of masculine healing I needed. I was estranged from my dad for the first, 26 years of my life. And so a lot of, things came from that, just me feeling like I needed to be that powerful protector energy and not really let myself be vulnerable enough to heal and to be exposed in my heart space. And so, that's definitely what I would tell my childhood self, is that it's okay to heal, and it's okay to look at the things that don't feel good and that cause pain and cause tension and cause anxiety. It's okay to feel uncomfortable and vulnerable and to feel exposed, because that's part of you cracking yourself open to get the healing you need. And in that fear, we really resist and limit ourselves from the even awareness of the healing that's needed sometimes. So I think releasing fear would be huge for my childhood self.
I guess for me, what I would tell my childhood self would be, why not try it as it relates to holistic healing? I feel like I too was kind of pigeonholed and assumed that there was only the things that I had been taught or things that people knew about was what I was going to do. And I had an innate interest in certain things, such as crystals, such as meditation, things like that. And I just was like, well, I don't know nobody that's doing it. Why am I going to be the first one to try it, kind of thing? Like, I'm not going to be the weirdo. I'm not going to be that person. I'm just going to fit in within the lanes. Growing up in the south suburbs of Chicago, growing up with just being like a jock and kind of being that kid. I'm like, I have a lane, I have friends. I'm not going to break out of this and be that weirdo, even though I was already that weirdo innately and my friends knew it and I just didn't embrace it. So I would tell that kid just to, like, why not try it? You're already who you are. You're just hiding who you are because you're afraid to step into those things that you're interested in. So why not do it? Because you're going to wait 10, 15 years and be like, oh, I should have been did this. Why did that take so long? So yeah, I just try it.
Love that.
I guess I'm the last one to go. I think for me, it's pretty much all diet. And when I think back when I was a kid, I used to eat these whole bags of like the little tiny powdered donuts, like the white ones. I'd get this bag like this big of them, and I'd eat the whole thing in one sitting. And I just ate so much horrible processed food. And I've been through so many diets now. I was a raw vegan for a long time and, vegan for a long time. And then I've, been in like a Chinese medicine diet and an Ayurvedic diet. And I've been on the blood type O diet, and I've been on the Atkins diet, and I've been on like every diet that exists. And I think of all of the like anger issues I had as a kid and like a propensity for violence. And I just wonder how much of it was like those damn powdered donuts, like just like processed food and like white sugar and just like white flour just packed in, blocking all my, everything inside my gut to like really be able to hear myself. And I remember when I first started cleansing and like fasting, and just kind of clearing everything out of my gut. And I couldn't believe how strong I could feel my intuition like coming into my gut. It was like a super highway of information coming like into my gut, like by my belly button. And I was just like, oh my, I just couldn't believe how clear the channel was once I got all that stuff out of the way. So I think that, for me, everything would be about strengthening, like trusting your instincts, strengthening your intuition, and just knowledge of food and just how toxic, like, all of, I mean, I grew up in the 80s. So, I mean, the food we ate was awful. I mean, I just lived on, just the worst processed food that exists. That's all I ate. And it wasn't until I got off that food that suddenly all my, intuitive faculties and everything started like sharpening and just getting to like, the next level where I understood that it was accurate and I could tell what to listen to and what not to listen to. So yeah, for me, it's just all diet, and it's just pretty much just getting off the sad diet.
Love that. Yeah, huge. The gut health is everything. So thank you so much for sharing that, because I definitely think we can all relate to that and the crazy things we ate when we were younger. And for those who are watching, I'm sure the same. And maybe you're still eating those things, and this is a big eye opener for you to, really stop that. Maybe you've had the intuitive call to start to clean up your diet, and this is that sign for you to really say, yeah, it's time. And what a better time than now in the world, because we're in a place of really needing to raise our vibration right now, and the best way to do it is through this holistic healing awareness and knowledge, because these are really the natural ways that we've been healing ourselves as humans for eons and eons of years. So this is a really powerful discussion. All right, let's go into the next question. We've got 2 more left, and I think we are going to have time to get through them both. So let me mix them up here. Okay. All right. The next question is from Ksenia, and this question is, what have you found helpful recently on your inner healing journey? And I think recently is a big one, because, with the times in our world right now, there's so much energy shifting, there's so many things shifting, and there's so many things to feel and experience and process energetically, physically, information-wise. So what has it been for your inner healing right now for all of you that has been most beneficial?
Okay, I'll go. Oh, Chad, you got me? Did you beat me? I saw your video before I talked, so you go ahead.
Oh, Brian, you're such a chivalry is not dead, and I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm appreciative. Mine is going to be short, but relatively brief. And I guess recently it has been getting comfortable. I've actually just kind of had a bit of a awareness about this recently within the last day or two. Something I'm very big on the concept of flow, about getting into that flow state, and just like effortless action. But so quickly we forget how to get into that flow. It takes action to get it going. To get that wheel turning, somebody has to push that wheel, and it's hard to get that wheel going. It's hard to get that ball rolling. So for me, recently it has been just not necessarily loving the process, because it's not easy. The work isn't easy. It's not hard to get out of that rut and get going, but just being honest with myself and calling myself on my own BS. Like, hey, you're not doing the work. You're mad about where you want to be and where you're not, but you haven't done the work. So whose fault is it to blame? I think it has been getting honest with myself and just looking myself in the mirror and taking ownership of the fact that there's more work I can be doing, and I need to be doing that work. So just taking ownership of not being where I want to be because I haven't done the work. So,
Chad, is there anything that you've noticed is most beneficial or helpful for you to get into flow? Like, have you noticed something that's been easier or helped you access that flow?
So I listen to a lot of, actually been going, I was telling Rissa earlier, I listen to a lot of like basketball or like great athletes interviews. So like Kobe Bryant, a lot of interviews he did, prior to his passing, rest in peace to him. Players like Jimmy Butler playing right now. And for me, it has been just kind of forcing myself out of that uncomfortable place, and forcing myself can be, my alarm clock's at 5:30. I'm not hitting the snooze today. I don't care what happens. I'm not hitting the snooze. Get up. why are you snoozing? You're working from home. It's COVID. Get up, just do something, get active. Or yeah, just kind of, for me, what helps me a lot is that routine. I have a routine kind of set, like get up at this time, meditate by this time, work out by this time, eat by this time, and then keep going. And for me, that forces me out of my rut. And it forces me to remain accountable. So I would say that for a lot of people, I think is good, especially right now with a lot of us maybe working from home or not being as social as we once were. Just having that routine, forcing that routine, and like also forcing yourself to adhere to that routine. So.
Love that. Thank you. All right, who else wants to share?
I'll piggyback off that. I love what you said, Chad. So for me, yeah, routine has been such a huge thing, especially since as everything's been unfolding this year. And it's really actually interesting because up until this year, I think it was like the very first month of the year, I was so in my flow that any sort of discipline or routine or anything like that, I was just like, nope, not happening. I was just doing everything very intuitively. And I thought that there was great freedom in that, which at the time there was for me. However, I think it was the first maybe week of the new year, I happened to pick up this book, Atomic Habits, and I read like the whole thing in one night. So if anyone watching or anyone even on this call, it's so amazing for forming routine, for forming new habits. It's an amazing book. And so I read the whole thing all in one night, and I started implementing all these different things. Because before, when I was in my too in my flow, I would say, I'd be like, yeah, I'll meditate tomorrow. And then tomorrow would come, and I'd be like, oh, well, I didn't meditate today, but I'll do it, tomorrow. And then so things would slip by, or I'd be like, oh, sure, I want to be in more contact with my family. Okay, well, I'll call my mom, in a few days, or I'll call her this weekend. And then the weekend would come and I wouldn't. Or with working out, I'd be like, yeah, okay, I'll work out like 3 times this week, 4 times this week. And then the week would have passed. I'd be like, oh man, I didn't work out this week. All right, I'll do it next week. So I was like so in my flow and doing all these things. But I didn't realize that a proper discipline, like me disciplining, and this could have something to do with how I used to view the masculine as well. For me, the masculine was the discipline. And I was like so in my phone. I was like, no way. But coming into right relationship with that, I saw that discipline can be one of the greatest forms of self-care that there is out there. So once I started, it's funny because the way I started it too is like a very childlike way. I would make myself like a to-do list, right? And I'd be like, okay, wake up, meditate. And I'd cross that off when I was done, 30 minutes of reading, cross that off when I was done, an hour of movement, cross that off when I was done, 30 minutes of time outside. Okay, did that, cross that off when I was done. So it's really this like accountability piece to where I like needed that, to see it written down and to like be like, okay, yep, I did that. Because then I noticed that with that, I got to do so much more of the things I wanted to do anyways. Like I got to do the workouts and I got to do the meditation. I got to spend more time outside. I have, a scheduled phone call with my mom or a scheduled phone call with my sister. And so those things get done instead of just slipping by. So I think for me, recently, and it's, gosh, when everything unfolded with the virus, it was such a help because I had my routines in place. I felt really steady. So, as with everything being so unsure and so much uncertainty in the world, it felt really good to have a stable foundation to work from. So that's really, I love what you said, Chad. Yeah, about the routine. That's really helped me this year too, I would say.
Love that. And go ahead, Brian, because I know you were technically next and we forgot. No, you're fine because I did. But.
What was the exact question again? It was about what are you doing most recently?
Yeah, most recently, what's been most helpful for your inner healing journey?
Okay, so for me, I've done a lot of diet. I've done a lot of supplements. I've sold and eaten a lot of Chinese herbs and Ayurvedic herbs and all kinds of exotic things like elk antler or reishi spore or just all kinds of stuff like that. But I was really surprised, and Rissa, you're friends with my girlfriend, Jessie. She, we found out that we had mold exposure in our house and I had no idea. And apparently testosterone helps kind of like buffer the effects of mold. So I didn't really notice it as much, but I had been living in mold for like 10 years. And because I have a supplement company and I have all these Chinese herbs around me, I'm just like taking all this stuff and just have all this energy, and I'm like pushing back against the negative effects of the mold without realizing it, like supercharging my system, but I was accumulating it the whole entire time. And so finally I've like really looked at it, and I just started cleansing. And it turns out when you have mold exposure, you tend to have parasites take over and stuff like that. So I'm just learning. I can't believe this, because I was into this stuff like 10 years ago when I was a raw vegan. Everyone was cleansing and everyone was doing parasite cleanses and everyone was, doing all these things. But I had like gotten so far past that. That was so long ago when I did that. But now I'm just coming full circle back to the same spot I was like 10 or 12 years ago, starting all over again, cleansing, alkalizing the body to cleanse, and just keeping all native organs open, and red lights therapy, and just doing all kinds of stuff. And so I'm just kind of like blown away that I missed that just because I had access to all this exotic stuff and was excited about all these superfoods and herbs, and I was completely overlooking the fact that I was living in mold and had no idea. And it was just slowly accumulating and wearing down my kidneys, and actually getting in my heart. I got parasites. I got just all kinds of stuff happen. So we've just been doing some really intense cleansing, parasite cleansing stuff. And it turns out, I don't remember the exact statistic and I don't want to exaggerate, but it's very high percentage. It's like over 50% of all buildings in America have mold, have had water damage, and most likely have mold. So how big of a deal this issue is pretty crazy. And a lot of autoimmune diseases, I think, are connected often to this, like a lot of exotic autoimmune diseases that people can't figure out. I think a lot of it has to do with mold suppressing the immune system and just causing all kinds of complications, parasite infestations causing all kinds of complications. So this is all new for me, even though I've been doing like all kinds of diets, all kinds of herbs and modalities and everything. Like, it's like a real shocker that I had no concept that I was just like living in this situation. And I feel like, who knows how many other people are unaware that they're like living in mold and taking on the same thing, and have, they might have thyroid issues, they might have any kind of issue, and it totally could be some environmental thing they're not even considering. So.
Yeah. Wow, that's so powerful. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I know, even talking to Jessie about her experience with these parasites and this cleanse has just been intense. And she's like gained so much knowledge on it that's just blown my mind. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to do this ASAP. Like, this could be related to emotional stuff, mental health stuff, autoimmune stuff, like physical, all sorts of things. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's important. And I think anybody who's intuitively feeling like, oh, this feels like something I need, a parasite cleanse, or to check my house for mold, do that. Like, your spirit is calling you to check that stuff out for a reason. I think for me, I'll just share real briefly, lately for my healing has been to just raise my vibration in any way I can and to keep it high. Me focusing on, what brings me joy, what brings me bliss, what brings me into a vibration of love and peace, what gives me a sense of balance and feeling, fulfilled and nurtured, and self-love and self-care. Super important. I've also been working with cacao, which has been so powerful for me because I'm an air sign. I'm a Gemini rising and Gemini sun with a Cancer moon. So I don't have a lot of earth energy in my chart. And for me, like the grounding energy of cacao and working with this, plant medicine that's so, gentle and comforting has really been powerful. So, any way that I can raise my vibration in any day has been a big deal. Like, I don't let a lot of negativity in. I don't let myself get too caught up in negative thoughts. And if I do, I hold space for it and then clear it within a certain amount of time, so I'm not dwelling in it. And I really activate a sense of gratitude. I focus on what I'm grateful for, what brings me joy, what brings me in a state of love, because when we vibrate at that level, we're really tapping into that well-being energy in every form. And with everything going on in the world right now, things being so chaotic, negative, lots of disclosure happening, lots of confusion happening, lots of chaos happening, both in the world, in, a physical form with, natural disasters and things like that, but also politically, socioeconomically, all that. the best thing we can do is stay in a vibration that's high and resonant with, the most powerful life force energy that we can tap into, which is love and bliss and light. So that's kind of my way of staying healed internally most recently. Who else wants to share?
I'll share. So for those of you that don't know, I'm a mom. I have 3 kids, a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So recently, there's been a lot of no school and a lot of mom like about to lose her damn mind. So I have been, I've been getting massages by a certain amazing person who's also on this call. I've been getting energy work. I've been seeing my Reiki master. I have been, so before COVID hit, I was retreating. And that was what was so deeply impactful on my healing journey, because it's not just as a parent, but just I think as a healer, as anyone who holds space for others, sometimes we can get to this place where it's like we're holding space, and then we don't have anyone. We're like, it stopped. We like everything drops, and we're like, oh wait, who's holding me, right? Who's holding space for me? And so I think that's something that's really been so important recently for me, because I think the interesting thing is, and I actually love that Brian brought this analogy of the mold in, because as the whole time as he was talking about it, I was like, yeah, that's kind of what everybody has literally realized. Like, they've lived in a house now that has had mold in it for 10 years, right? Like, everything stopped with COVID and everybody was stuck in their house and they're like, what am I living in? Right? It was like this realization for so many people when they slowed down, like, what's in my house? Kind of like, what's in my life, right? Like, what matters and what is noise, So there's been a lot of that for us as a family, and really looking at our life as it has slowed down and wondering and really diving into, wow, like, how did we accumulate all this shit? We've got to go take some stuff to Goodwill, right? Like, this is just not working anymore. And so that's been a huge piece. But to be able to do that, for me, I've been reading this great book, so I'm glad you had a book recommendation, Ksenia. But the book I've been reading is called Sacred Success. And she talks about this concept of receptive surrender. And that's when we really take time to step away and do nothing, like just be with ourselves. And when we make that space, how much can happen for us in that space. And so I've, had to stop going to in-person retreats for a little while because of everything that happened. And so it was challenging, but I've been able to create like pockets for myself to retreat, even if it doesn't look like I used to do it. And that's been really healing for me. But I would say to anyone who's listening, if you don't have someone holding space for you, I mean, there's a lot of really great space holders on this call. And it's important to have that for yourself, because when you give yourself that, it's like you can see the possibility for your life. And you can also see the fucking mold that might be in your house that needs to go, that needs to be dealt with, right? So that's my piece there.
I love that. Oh my gosh, I love how everything's tying together. It's so great. All right, Monique, go ahead and share on your question, and then we'll get to the last question for this part of the discussion.
I love that so much, because mine does kind of flow really well with Molly's answer. And the biggest thing that's helped me most recently is community. Saying yes, because for example, I had been following Abundance Space and Ksenia for over a year before I said yes to walking through the doors out of just fear, and when I finally said yes, and I found this community, my life's never been the same. And then I found another community, and then I found like there's communities within communities, and like Molly said, there are so many people that you maybe have just yet to come to know, that are willing to hold space for you and willing to guide you. Maybe they were where you were just months ago, or they're looking at you like, wow, and you were right there where they were once. So for me, just saying yes to community and sisterhood and brotherhood has really changed my life most recently on my journey.
Oh, I love that. Such a well-rounded answer from everybody. Like, we really hit on all sorts of ways to tap into our internal healing journey. Let's go ahead and wrap it up with a very last question of this part. We'll keep it pretty brief, but still, of course, share what you want to share. This question comes from Monique, and it is, in your opinion, what is the difference between intellect and intelligence? And how has the separation of the two impacted our health and development? Really powerful question. The difference between intellect and intelligence, and how the separation has impacted our health. Anybody?
I would love to go first, because I've been like thinking about this for it's been on my mind for a while. It was brought to me in a book, and then the book called Talking with Nature, since we're on the subjects of books. It's wonderful. And he kind of talked about this. And to me, I really feel like intellect is learned knowledge that you can receive from books and classes, courses, experience. And intelligence is just the innate intelligence of the human body, the innate intelligence of plant medicine and of the earth. And I feel like there really has become a separation of the two. And for instance, in, let's say, the medical field, our doctors here in the West have so much intellect, and their science tells them that these pharmaceuticals work. Like, let's shove all these pharmaceuticals down everybody's throat. Yet they almost completely ignore the innate intelligence of plant medicine and the human body, what we can do to heal ourselves. And so this separation, I know it's affected me personally from childhood. Not eating proper nutrition, not getting proper healthcare, or just moving my body, being physical, allowing energy to flow naturally. So I just feel like there's a huge separation there. And the more that we can bridge the gap between all that, huge differences can be made, I feel like.
Love that breakdown. I think that's so powerful. Let's continue talking about that. Who else wants to add to that?
I'd like to piggyback off that. I think that even relates to spiritual work, right? Because so many, like, I know for me, when I first started on my spiritual journey, I wanted to know the story behind everything, right? If it was like a past life thing, I was so connected, like what happened, who was it, why, etc. If it was something in my body, I wanted to know all the details. If it was any kind of shamanic session, I was just so curious about every single thing about it, right? It was like that intellect piece, like my mind had to know, what's the story, what's going on, what's happening, how can I gather more information? And then I think that there's as I went on with my healing, my own body's innate intelligence takes over, and it's like my body's doing the release, or my body's doing the healing, and I don't even need to know anymore, right? My mind can just take a back seat, because it's not as important what that story is, or what exactly happened, or whatever else. The important thing is that my body can heal from it. It knows what to do, and it's moving it through, it's working with that energy, and it's coming out the other side. So I really do think, we have that innate intelligence within us, and from a young age, we get separated from it. And I do think it's intentional. I do think that, through advertising, through media, There's so many different, even school, for whatever reason, I mean, there's many reasons, for us to be disconnected from our own innate intelligence serves a lot of other powers that be. So I do think it's intentional that it happens. And some people, you know, they may not find that way back in this lifetime. And for other people, they're waking up and they're asking questions and they're tuning into what feels good for them. They're tuning into, something might just not sit right about that, right? And so they're returning. What I'm seeing, like with all my shamanic clients and with my breathwork clients, is this return, this remembrance of, we know we have everything within us. Like, we know how to heal. We know what to do. We know what works for us. So really, instead of, with the intellect learning more, it's like, no, it's more of like unlearning everything that we were taught and returning to that innate intelligence that's already there.
Wow, so powerful. I could not agree more with that. So, so, so powerful. Who else wants to jump in on that?
I can piggyback on that because I love both of the two shares. And I feel like that was going to be my answer when I first thought of this question is, I think you touched on this, Monique, but the pharmaceuticals versus like what's available to us. What does the earth give us? Right. I remember the first time I had ever gotten Reiki, and this was the first time I had ever gotten energy work. And she's like, just tell me when you feel something. And I was like, you tell me what I'm supposed to feel. Like, what the hell? I don't know what's going on here. Like, I've never experienced anything like this. But it's because I was so disconnected to my body, and I was so used to doctors telling me what my body needed, what I needed to do for my body, what medications I needed to take, all of those things. And I totally agree 100% with you, Ksenia, about like really empowering people that their body is able to heal is intention. That's like intentionally not created in our culture. Because there's really no money made from that, right? Like I'm that's pretty blunt, but I feel like that's so true. There's just really not, like, if people can self-heal and the earth can grow the things that we can heal with. And don't get me wrong, I was a nurse, I was in bedside for 9 years. Western medicine is phenomenal and has a beautiful place in emergency care and trauma care, and all of these different pieces are really just beautiful that we have access to these things. And like that system has, I think, created us to forget that we have the ability in our own body. Yeah. And waking up to that is a really powerful thing, and it creates people to be very powerful beings. So maybe it's not necessarily, I guess maybe it's money and power, right? Like they're very, very intricately connected, as to why the intentionality of not creating that culture is present. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. It's just, the necessary aspect of Western medicine is there, but still recognizing that necessary aspect of our innate intelligence. I think of it as our intuition is our innate intelligence. And then what we learn outside of our intuition, things that are, based in ancient practices or based in information that we want to learn about the stars that can help us better tap into our innate intelligence. That's kind of what I think the difference is. And I agree with you all on the separation that's there and how it affects us. It's not affecting us in a good way. Any separation doesn't really ever serve us. We're always on our path back to oneness and connection. So that's my take on it. Who else wants to share? We've got a couple more minutes for the end of part 1, and then we'll leave the rest for part 2. Go for it, Brian.
Okay. I saw Chad move his lips. I was like, is he trying to go? I think the way the question is structured, it just reminds me a lot of left brain, right, like the difference between left brain, right brain. And me and Jessie are raising her 2 kids. One is 13, one is 14, a boy and a girl, and one's very left brain, one's very right brain. And so in my opinion, the only like really intelligent person is somebody who can kind of harness both. Like if you're strong in one, it's good to work on the other. And if you can harness both, then you can do a lot with it. But society, I do believe, to kind of speak to what other people had said, I think multiple people mentioned it, is like, I do feel society is kind of set up to keep us in sort of a left brain imprisonment and to be out of touch with magic and intuition and seeing and understanding things more holistically. And, a lot of our systems are really based in separation and things being disjointed and not interconnected. And so I think obviously as people awaken, they start to realize like, oh my God, everything is connected. And it starts to get complicated because you realize literally everything is connected. So it's like every single thing, your food, your thoughts, what country you live in, the language you speak, the culture you live, everything, it's all connected. And, to be intelligent, you have to kind of, actually I say even setting a really high bar. So if you had like a Buddhist monk who was super advanced and, spent their whole life meditating in Tibet or something like that. And then you had, different versions of that in other cultures, people that were really astute. In my opinion, no matter what your background is, it's really important to shatter every belief you've been programmed with and try to think outside the box you've been given, because everybody's been given a box, no matter what the box is. Even if you have an amazing box that has all kinds of spiritual knowledge and wisdom, but if you've never left your box, you're still in sort of somewhat of a little prison, no matter what it is. So it's like, at some point, I think everybody has to kind of shatter the box that they've been put in. And that's when you finally get in touch with like real intelligence, which is that intelligence that's within you, that's beyond every box that everything has been, put into. And, so I think that's like, and I guess in my opinion, that's kind of like in a way, everybody's ultimate goal is to like, how do we shatter every like limiting belief we have to like really connect with what's real?
Yeah. Wow, that was awesome. Yes, I agree. Don't get boxed in, liberate your mind and allow yourself to really harness both the left and the right and all the things, all the connections. All right, Chad, you're going to finish this out with the last question of part one. Go for it.
I definitely love, Brian, where you were going with the kind of juxtaposition of that left versus right brain that we all kind of have innately, kind of geared towards one way or the other. There's a former running back for Houston Texans, Arian Foster, is actually a really astute guy, but he has a podcast. And on one of his earliest episodes, he said something very powerful. He said that he thinks the best society will be run by artists and scientists for that same reason, because we follow so many people who have placed us in these boxes, who, different politicians, and obviously we can go on and on about that, but there is kind of this loss of that appreciation for both sides of the coin. Although we do have our own innate intelligence that has been subverted by many different systems, as many people have spoken on already. There is a place for intellect, but you can't get too caught up in either. If you know only intelligence, you know nothing of intellect, how can you explain to a person with intellect your intelligence? And if you only know intellect and know nothing of intelligence, how can I reach this intelligent person who doesn't know any of these big words I'm using? It's kind of like it goes back to balance. Balance is huge. Finding that balance between the two. And I agree with, as everyone has already kind of hit on already, that society, as we have found here in this Western model, is subverted our intelligence in many different ways, as I've already said. So I think it's important that for many of us, we get back in touch with that. But for those of us who have gotten all the way into the intellect side, or gotten all the way into the intelligence side, excuse me, as Brian was saying, you regarding for like, monks and people who are already in that spiritual box, who already have all this information. It's also important for them to get back out of that box and get back into that intellect side and find their own balance. There's good on both sides, there's bad on both sides. And when you box yourself in, as Brian already made a good point about, you limit yourself. And if you limit yourself, then what are we really doing? So, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it. This has been such a powerful conversation. What amazing questions asked by everybody, and amazing, amazing answers, and so much knowledge shared, so many modalities shared for healing on the inner work part of things. So we're going to go ahead and close this part of the roundtable discussion, and we will see you all back for part 2 in just a little bit. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you soon.